Hello, everyone, and welcome to WDHT TV. This is Off the Cuff with Siham Awada Jaafar, and during these trying times, information is really vital, and our Dearborn Heights community, our leaders, people on the front line are there front and center, trying to keep us safe, as well as giving us pertinent information on how we can help to make sure that our residents and everyone is cooperating to the highest extent to ensure our safety and theirs. Today, we have Chief Michael Petri, who is our police chief here in Dearborn Heights. Chief, welcome to Off the Cuff, and I just can't imagine what is going on the front lines. I know that you are leading the charge in regards to keeping the community safe, Dearborn Heights safe, and I know this is challenging. It's a very challenging environment, a very unprecedented time within our history, but you're there, you are leading this charge. What message right off the bat here can you give us? What are your thoughts? What's going through your mind? What are we doing to ensure the safety of our police officers as well as the safety of the residents?
Well, as you said, Siham, unprecedented times call for sometimes precedent-setting decisions. And we at the Dearborn Heights Police Department, well, you say leading the charge, we work as a team here. And I have some excellent employees on my staff, both administratively throughout the whole police department, that are working very hard to keep the residents of the city of Dearborn Heights safe, as well as themselves. And with that being said, our number one priority is making sure our employees are safe, because if they're not safe and they're not healthy, they're not here to help you. So we've taken some pretty drastic measures in order to run the police department in a way that's going to be most effective to be most useful to the community, and for us to be out there patrolling, still responding to runs. And I just want to make that clear to the community. We haven't changed our response to runs as far as going to them. We've just changed the way we are responding to them, if that makes sense. We've instituted quite a few things like telephone reporting, which we didn't have in the past. We're trying to minimize our police officers' contact on what would be minor infractions, choosing to have them there for you when you need them in the most dire straits, so to speak, and being more of a little bit more reactive, unfortunately. We're trying to as we all are, trying to limit unnecessary contact to slow the spread of this virus. And that's one of our main focal points. And it's very difficult. It's very difficult. You have to weigh your risk to cost benefits in deciding how you're going to utilize your resources. And our police officers are a resource, much like our vehicles. Everything that we have, you know, we want to keep it in the best condition that we can. So when it comes to it's time to be used, our police officers responding runs, for example, they're in a situation where they can respond to your house and not be healthy. Be healthy and not contaminate that home, in as much as them not receiving from something they may encounter from somebody on the street. So it's very important to us.
And that's what I want to talk to you about in terms of the personal protective gear and equipment and the lack thereof. How are we addressing that within the police department? Because I'm assuming that, you know, they wear masks, and when they go to a call, is there a request for those that they are calling on to also be protected in terms of their interaction with each other?
Well, absolutely. And I would find it hard to believe that anybody in these times right now has no idea of what's going on out there. And I would hope that people are taking the necessary precautions and measurements, from the simplest thing of washing their hands. If they do call the police, if they have a pizza delivery, if they're picking up their Amazon packages, whatever the case may be, that they're utilizing those safe precautionary measures when they're answering the door and people are coming over to their homes. A lot of the protective equipment we have, much like anything, you know, resources were limited. My staff got on it right away when the kind of call to order came out back in February, when the light was in the distance that we could see that there was going to be a problem. And we've gotten a considerable amount of resources to keep our officers safe. Some businesses locally, individuals, if I could give a couple shout outs, Jen Mast at D7, she supplied us with a bunch of sanitizers and stuff. Joe Shebo from the Rusted Crow, Abe Glanuch, the Honorable Mike Baydoun, Tim and Chris from Home Depot, Amy Jissy from the Middle Eastern Law Enforcement Association, and Vince Shaw from ZBAR. Just some of the people that have donated things that have allowed us to function. I think you're seeing a lot of it on the news. A lot of different aspects. People are cooking for nurses and doctors who are working 24/7. People are just painting signs and holding them up so that people can see they're appreciative. And those are the type of things that are going on in the community. But the resources that we needed are being supplied. We are getting them. We do have protective PPE, they refer to it, gloves, sanitizer, the masks, and so forth that we are utilizing. We've changed some of our protocols. Even if we have to arrest somebody, we will try to get them to wear a mask for their protection and ours. I mean, you just don't know with this virus. It's a invisible threat, so to speak.
It sure is, and we definitely want to keep our men and women in blue as safe as possible. And it sounds like you're taking all the necessary precautions. And this kind of time sometimes brings out the best in people. The people that you just mentioned, donating and trying to help and trying to be part of the process and part of the solution. I know there's been quite a conversation in regards to social distancing and individuals meeting together, socializing in their garages, on their porches, having, still those family gatherings. How dangerous is that, and how vital is it to get that message out that at this point, especially within the next 2 weeks, that we have to hold back, have to make sure that we have our social distancing, and even just sitting on the porch, in the backyards, the barbecues, those are contributing to the health hazard that we're dealing with right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of ironic that one of the greatest things about this community, the involvement with the neighbors and the familial aspects has somewhat become an albatross around our neck in these times. You drive through we're a bedroom community. That's what we're made up of, families and people getting together, socializing. As part of our community, a big thing is familial interaction, whether it's smoking hookah in a garage, playing cards, kids out, barbecues, pools, all those kind of things. And it's unfortunate that this is starting to occur when the weather's getting nice. It's really a bummer. I mean, we have to take this seriously and just stop some of that activity, or at the very least, just create social distancing. A lot of residents of our community have very big families, and a lot of interaction goes on with those families, whether it be birthdays, graduations, all those kind of things. And it's really tough that we have to scale back on all those things. And I think the hardest part, for me anyway, what I see, it's really sad, is that when somebody does suffer a COVID-related death or any type of death right now, there's really very minimal in memorial services. Weddings are being shut down. There's all kinds of things where it's just, it's a very tough time right now. But we have to look at it as hopefully there's a light in the horizon. And this is not something that is it's going to affect our way of life, but it's nothing permanent. And hopefully we can get through that. And if people can just, make sure that they're keeping their kids home. We always yell at our kids for being in the basement and playing their video games, and get outside and get some fresh air. You don't want that, but now it's kind of reversed. It's like, go back and stay in your house and play your video games. You don't want interaction, but that's what we're looking at as far as our roles is trying to get that. And the goal of the police department is compliance with that. We don't want to get out there and write tickets. We do have things that we give a cease and desist order to some of the businesses that are operating in violation of the Executive Order 2020-21. But it's not our goal to write you a ticket. We don't want to do. We want you to comply with what's going on and be safe for you as well as the community. So our officers are out there making contacts with the business. They're out there trying to make contacts with groups that are playing and doing things of that nature. And we want the public's help in that. You're always our eyes and ears, and we want you to call us and let us know when those type of things are happening so that we can respond to them.
Chief, we're hearing on the news, it's okay to go take a walk around the block. It's okay to, at least just get out and get some fresh air, walk your dog. What are we doing in Dearborn Heights? I mean, is that still an acceptable thing to do? Is that something that we're concerned about, given that there has been some conversation that, COVID-19 is airborne? What is your advice? What are we looking at in terms of that? And people going to the park, walking around as well. Some keeping that social distance, and some maybe not. But what would you say to that?
Well, I would say, why would you risk it? If you're with a family member of your own home and, a husband wants to go for a walk with his wife or, with your kids, I mean, maybe there's some rekindling of some familial relationships, which is, can be a positive sign in this. Families are being together, having more time together. Those are great positive aspects. Getting out, going for a walk, you got to stay away from each other. It is what it is. But even our governor has advocated for, getting out, getting some fresh air, and going through the huge amount of executive orders that have been put out on various things. Things, for instance, like voting. They're saying that that's still an activity for right now that we can do. Getting outside, doing some things in the fresh air. We just got to stay away from each other. But when we start interacting with friends and trying to go play basketball at the park, it gets a little bit difficult for us to try to police too, because there are people, as we've said, we have certain homes that have a lot of residents in it because they're a big family. And if you're part of that familial setting, that's not technically a violation of the executive order. If you go out and play basketball at the park with 3 or 4 of your friends, that wouldn't technically be, with 3 or 4 of your relatives that you live with, that technically wouldn't be in a violation of the executive order. Now, I believe the parks are being shut down and things of that nature, so that's a different animal. But if you're part of the same household, then that's a difficult thing for us to police. When we start interacting with people, now we're talking to people, the officers are putting themselves into a situation where now it may be not a perfect place to can you carry this conversation because of the COVID-19 virus. And, we're trying to figure out these type of things. So we're working, we're new at this too, as far as the police department. And our goal, like I said, is compliance, not for us to write tickets, not for us to be out there trying to harass people. We want just people to understand we have a great community. And I think that, we need them to police themselves too. Parents need to yell at their kids and say, get in the house. You need to have some common sense. This isn't going to last forever, I pray. It's just something that we have to deal with right now.
And I think just those sacrifices of trying to, shelter in place for a certain amount of time will hopefully get us there a lot faster. The 911 calls that you are receiving, do you see anything, any pattern? Do you see any difference? Do you see, something that's more related to our crisis right now, or is this just trying to change the protocol in answering those calls that you normally answer?
Well, our protocol is not going to change for our response to runs. We are going to respond to emergency runs. There's traffic crashes that are going to occur. There's domestic violence that's going to happen. Unfortunately, they're still going to be out there committing criminal acts, breaking into things, stealing things, whatever the case may be. I can honestly say that I think a good portion of our community, and in talking with other chiefs as well, the runs have subsided quite a bit. I wouldn't call it significantly, but there's been a definite reduction in runs as far as calls for service out there, because people are staying home. They're getting together, doing things. They're not out on the streets. We don't have the traffic that's out there. I still can hear few of the motorcycles and high-powered cars driving a little bit recklessly. That's going to happen, but we don't have the traffic that we had either. So things have reduced a little bit. I think one of the negative aspects of it, our domestic violence calls for service have gone up. People are getting together. Maybe they're getting a little cooped up. Drinking's involved. They're still, still are part of our society, alcohol, drugs, and so forth. And that's a concern. So the officers are responding to more calls for domestic violence related incidents, not necessarily violence, but maybe arguments and people getting upset and those type of things. So I think that is just the nature of the beast with people being cooped up together. That's something we'll have to deal with.
Absolutely. So Chief, what would be your personal message to the citizens of Dearborn Heights, what would be your ask in terms of trying to keep this as smooth as possible and trying to create that cooperation between the residents and you know, your office, and also, you know, within the city, and trying to keep those services going? How can the residents help?
The simple basics that has been asked from the President of the United States to the Governor of Michigan to Mayor Paletko to pretty much everything on Facebook that you see. Wash your hands, clean yourself, take care of yourself, try to stay sheltered in place, control that amount of time that your kids can spend outside or who they're interacting with. You know, basic, use your head. Think about it. Help us help you by getting through this. And I think Governor Whitmer said it best. If she had a magic wand and she could freeze everybody in place for 2 to 3 weeks, the virus would be gone, right? And that's kind of the way we got to look at it. If everybody does their part, we can get through this together. And the police department's always going to be here to do the things that are needed for this community. So the big message out there to both the community and the criminals is we haven't gone away. Our building may be closed, but you can still call for the main police line at 313-277-670-6770. Hit option 3 and talk to a police officer. If you need to come to the police department, you won't physically be able to get in the building, but we do have a buzzer outside, and if need be, an officer will come out there. Obviously, call 911 for any type of in-progress crime or any type of situation that you feel is an emergency, and we're there. So we're there. We're going to respond to runs. Our officers, I can say, knock on wood, we have not had any that have contracted the COVID-19 virus that we're aware of. We've had a couple scares. They turned out to be influenza. The administrative services department here at the police department, specifically Deputy Chief Myers and Captain Gary Voiles, got together and put a very good plan together. I believe is in place that we've kind of altered the shifts for our officers so that they're getting more time off. They're working there more hours up front and trying to give a bigger break to make sure that they haven't contracted the COVID-19 while they were working, so we can kind of monitor them before they come back. So we've broken up our shifts so that the officers that are working long shifts, and so that they can kind of put all their time together up front and take a little bit more time off to make sure they haven't contracted anything while they're off. So, but we have the same amount, if not more, officers that are here that we would normally have. We don't have anybody sick, knock on wood. Hopefully that doesn't happen throughout the metro area. I know quite a few departments from the meetings that I've had with different chiefs. There are a few departments that have quite a few officers that have contracted it. So I'm hoping, I mean, it could just be luck. We're just being lucky. But I think the measures we're taking to keep our officers safe and keep them out there for you are working. And I hope I didn't just hurt myself by saying that.
No. I'm knocking on wood too. Yeah, absolutely. Well,
so we're here. We're not going anywhere. And if you need us, call us.
Thank you. You know, this is unprecedented times, and our Dearborn Heights police officers and you are all stepping up to the plate. Obviously, you know, you've conformed to this new normal right now, and we are up and running, and very appreciative of your leadership, of all the officers within Dearborn Heights and all our frontliners that have really stepped up and made sure that we continue with some kind of normalcy and adapting to this crisis that we are all going through. And we're all in this together, and we have to make it work, and we all have to be part of the solution and part of the process. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us and to be on WDHT TV, and also to give us a real clear vision of what's happening, and putting us all at ease that we are going forward. You are there, and we do have a wonderful Dearborn Heights Police Department that is definitely on it. So thank you so much, Chief Michael Petri, and thank you all for joining us on WDHT TV. I hope this was informative And please send us any of your questions at wdhttv@gmail.com if you'd like anything answered. And again, our administration, the city, our police department is there to answer any of your questions. Be safe, wash those hands, keep that distance, shelter in place, and let's be part of the solution. Thank you, Chief, for being with us.
Thank you, Siham.